Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox, two of the best fiction novels you will ever read in your life. Hands down. I know this because I've read everything. Right now I'm on book 27 of Warhammer. I've read all the good stuff, all the greats, and I've been working on writing in comics for a long time. And I'm so glad that we're going to look at Trencher number 3 today, because this has given me a lot of what I want to talk about. But first, we're going to go over Conan the Adventurer number 2. This is a reprint of a book that we just looked at, Lair of the Beastmen, which was Conan the Barbarian number 6, I believe. And so this is new colors. And the reprint that we saw was back in a collected Conan a couple weeks ago, kind of like this. As a matter of fact, I think it might even be in here. Look at what we have in here. I'm just going to show you this anyhow, since it's right here in my hand. Is this Lair of the Beastmen? No, it's Rogues in the House. But this is Barry Windsor Smith stuff, reprinted on a massive scale. So these are original Conan the Barbarian stories. Oh look, here's Valeria. Red nails. We have red nails as a giant size. Wow. Oh, yeah. And this, so when you compare Conan to Trencher and reprints and the Marvel method, that is what I'm going to rant about today. I'm kind of pissed. So again, this is a reprint, Barry Windsor Smith, where this girl, Tara, lures Conan to become a captured slave in this city, and he inspires a revolution, and they break out and kill everybody. And this was an award-winning story, I believe, when Robert E. Howard wrote it, and most of the comic book adaptations have been as well. I'm just doing that before, just showing you that before. That's an appetizer to Trencher number 3. And we are going to talk about some of the problems that arose in the industry of comics through greed, laziness, and convenience. All driven by necessity for monthly deadlines, to meet monthly deadlines. This is Trencher number 3 by Keith Giffen and Lovering Kindzierski. Keith Giffen, I did not know this, I looked it up today, is a comic book legend. As a kid, I'd never heard his name before. As a kid. As an adult, this comic art style was so unique that I thought that Image had done what they promised they were going to do in the early 90s and seek out and offer, what do you call this? Creative artists a opportunity at something more. I thought, like an idiot, that this was a first-time artist who had produced this. I thought the mistakes in here were mistakes of inexperience as opposed to mistakes of deliberate disregard for the medium, the fans, and the industry as a whole, which is exactly what Keith Giffen had done his entire career. I can't blame him because there is a sense of humor here, and like Patrice O'Neill says, who are you to decide what's funny? The comedian has to be the one who tries all the jokes. A comedian's level of expertise is how many out of 10 jokes hit. Anthony Jeselnik's new Netflix, I'd say 10 out of 10. Keith Giffen's probably hitting 3 out of 10. Maybe 7 on a good day. 5 is average, I suppose. Half, 50% of your jokes land is 50% of your, look, if 50% of your jokes land, you're doing a really good job. I think writing jokes has got to be a little bit like trying to, how do I phrase this? Like a batter's average, right? If you're hitting 3%, you're probably doing really good, because most people are hugely different, especially today. Today's culture is so divisive. Back in the 80s and 90s, our culture was a lot more cohesive. Our culture was a lot more unified, a lot more homogenous, dare I say. our values were shared. Nowadays, if you can get 2 out of 10 people to laugh at one joke, you're doing a fucking great job. People have so much hate in them. I know because I feel it in me and I don't know where it's coming from. I've been feeling it the last couple days and I haven't had any alcohol in weeks. And it's possible, I hadn't had any alcohol in months before that. So it's possible that this is a delayed reaction to going to a holiday party a few weeks ago. But I don't think so. I think it's more likely that something is up because a lot of people are pissed off. Now I've got a lot of things to be pissed off about, but it's Christmas. It's Christmas. Why is everyone in such a bad fucking mood? It's not just the full moon. So let me explain what's happening here and then I'll explain why I'm so pissed off and energized and why I've got a bee in my bonnet or a stick up my ass or whatever the fuck you want to say. Supreme fights Trencher for a dozen pages and it all takes place over probably a minute, maybe a minute to 2 minutes, 30 seconds to a minute. There's not a lot of dialogue. This picks up right where the last one left off. Here's Trencher. It's a decent drawing. I wish they'd put in a sky behind him. But hey, they were pressed for time. Supreme lands, gives Trencher a bit of grief. Trencher is also, it's not his name. His name is Gideon. Trencher is a role. As a matter of fact, now that I think of it, she does look a little bit like the Gideon from X-Force, but I'm sure that's not who he is. But his name is Gideon. His computer has a name too. I don't remember it. And so here he's fighting Supreme, who is a white-haired version, if Steve Martin was a jacked up Superman. So white hair, white eyebrows, and they just have a fight. That's all this is for pages. This is kinetic, cartoony action. Every panel has motion. Like the things that are right in this. Now granted, this is a comic book veteran, a lifetime veteran. He did comics his entire life. Now this is the 90s, so this is probably the middle of his career. And this is incredible. You feel it, you feel the movement. I can almost hear it. I love this comic and I hate it for what it failed because how do I describe this? This is a 6 out of 10 and it should be a 12 out of 10. If a couple things were done right, this could have easily been, but how do you get a comedian? You can't change their style. You can't. That's their whole life. That's their persona. That's who they are. What he needed was legitimate, qualified, supportive help. He needed guidance. And that does not exist not only in the comic book industry, it certainly doesn't exist in a culture war. And it absolutely does not exist in a secret culture war, which was what was going on at Marvel in the 80s and 90s. Secret wars? Fuck you, right? It was Secret Wars. Yeah, it was Secret Wars. And we all see the masks off now. We all know who is hiding behind the curtain now. We can all see what happened at Marvel Comics now. The Marvel method was being used to exploit white men for their creative potential while Jews sat back and took the fucking gravy. That's exactly what happened. And Jack Kirby may have been a Jew, I don't fucking care. He was being exploited too. They were having them do character creation, design, layout, lighting, everything. Now granted, that's for TV. I'm using TV terms to describe a comic book. But they were doing it all, and then a couple other cunts were taking fucking, basically the money, the juice. You had a team of 6 to 8 guys, one guy's doing 90% of the work, and the rest are just fucking parasites. Maybe the one guy's being paid, but it's really obvious that this was not a team effort. There's so much backstabbing, infighting, competition, and where does that happen? That happens when when it's not a family. That happens when it's a gang of jackals and hyenas. It's so easy to do this right. It's so easy to do this right. Got to do it with your friends, and you still got to do it in a way that makes money. And that's why I'm so happy. I'm so happy that the internet is not, granted, the Jews are trying to own it, but they can't control it. It's not theirs. It's out of the bag. Fuck you. You'll never be our tyrants. We ended tyrants. Remember King Herod? You're all King Herod. all you fucking assholes are King Herod. Baby killers. What does that have to do with this? What does the current culture war have to do with this? Everything. The Marvel method was a way for the bankers to exploit white men while destroying their culture. There's a few other things that I came across reading about Keith Griffin's career. He's passed away now. He died in, I don't even remember, I want to say 2000 something. He was 70. So, this is incredible. This is awesome. And what this needed was, now granted, it got a helping hand. And how do you guide this with, I guess what I'm trying to say, what I'm lamenting is where do you define guidance versus interference? Where does guidance become interference and sour the entire thing? And maybe that's why there's only so few issues of this, because he got so much feedback and the feedback was so loud that he just, and he probably had to acknowledge that the feedback was right. And that's heartbreaking for the people who have to say it and heartbreaking for him who has to hear it. But he did say, look, this is what got me off on this fucking rage rant today. I read that this guy, and he started a lot of his career with Bill Mantlo, who we read about in the Conan books, who was injecting Jewish fucking bullshit in there, degeneracy. And what Keith Griffin said is that when he was working on Marvel's Defenders, that he could have made it great if he had had an ounce of professionalism. And that's what's on display here, is an utter lack of professionalism. It's sarcastic, sort of Mad Magazine, I don't want to say no holds barred, but just no restraint, no focus, no respect. That's ultimately what it is there's no respect here for the medium, for the fans, for the art, for the paycheck. There's no respect involved for anything except artistic indulgence. That's all this is, pure indulgence. It's solid sugar, and it's almost like it's not even done well. They're just like, yeah, it's frosting. It has no flavor, but it's pretty. That's my problem with this book. And that's my problem with what happened to Marvel in general. It became saccharine. And even worse, then the Jews brought in the gays and it became NutraSweet. When it was real pure cane sugar, at least it was something. Now it's just NutraSweet and what's that other shit that they poison you with? Bisphenol A or there's something in NutraSweet that was like super, and I want to say it started with an A. It doesn't matter. But now it's poison. It's gone from this, which was fun, but insincere. Insincere. That's my fucking problem with this. It's insincere. And the Jews promote insincerity if that's the least they can get, because that's the thin end of the wedge. Whatever they can do to destroy your culture, that's what they want to do. They've done it to all white cultures. They did it to Russia and China. That's how communism happened. You guys need to wake the fuck up. Insincerity in art. It's the definition of the modern art era. People who are poisoning you. They're poisoning your family. You have parents who are poisoning the children. Now, okay, so I should explain what happened. This has been nothing but a fight between Supreme and Trencher. Nothing got said that mattered. And Supreme at some point knocks Trencher's head off. And yeah, so, I should back up a little bit because this is kind of cool. Supreme punches him and he bounces all the way to Las Vegas, hits a sign of a giant coin, and then that coin crashes down off the mounting where it's mounted to the building and bounces through the city This is still all inertia. It smashes up against a building, and he still is. This is inertia from when Supreme punched him 4 pages ago. He bounces across these pages until he finally comes to rest. And here they're going at it again. This is sort of the Neo versus Agent Smith at the end of The Matrix in the rain moment. And we know what we're going to see. So Supreme took a beating in that one. But Trencher does get his head knocked off. Trencher. I keep calling him Trencher, and his name is Gideon. He is a Trencher. And so this is where I believe he gets his head knocked off, and it's that purple flying thing, and it ends up in the bottom of a pool. Look, this is really well done. It's fucking amazing. If it had an ounce of sincerity, it would, if Keith Griffin had displayed an ounce of sincerity in his career of writing, he'd be famous. We would all know his name. Instead, and this is a tragedy, none of you know his name. So if you're going to work in art, if you're going to work, and this goes straight back, I've said this over and over and over again, this was one of the best things I got out of animation school. I went to animation school at Art Institute of Los Angeles in Santa Monica from 98 to 2000. I graduated 2001. I think, and it was an accelerated course, and we, our storyboarding instructor was Ruben Apodaca, who created the character designs for the Chipmunks. He did a whole lot of work in animation, but Alvin, Simon, and Theodore in the 80s cartoon, and he was our instructor. He's the one who got up and did a perfect circle, a huge perfect circle, and then asked us how long did that take to draw. And people said a second, half a second. He said 44 years, 6 months, 30 days, whatever. As long as he'd been working. I think it was more than that because he was in his 60s. So he probably said like 50-something years. He said 40-something years. But regardless, the point was made. You're constantly learning. You're constantly improving. And the other thing he said, which is really important, was you have to love doing the work. And if you don't love doing the work, it will come through in the work and the audience will feel it and they won't love it either. Now that's one thing I will say for Keith Griffin's work. He loves doing this. This is a work of pure love and joy, and I feel it. But if it was just a little bit more professional, it would be, if it was a little more sincere, if he loved the story a little bit more and didn't love being a smartass quite so much, if he hadn't gotten so much praise, here's the problem. He got praise for being a smartass. He got praise from Jews who wanted to destroy our culture for being a degenerate cunt. And so they encouraged that and they got more of that out of him. Instead of, I want to see my stuff in cartoon. Yes, absolutely. But I want to do a cartoon, a really meaningful cartoon about the Waffen SS and heartfelt cartoon where they're heroes. And if he had made his character a hero, if he had believed in his character and believed in his story, if he'd been a different kind of writer, if he'd respected the opportunity he had, and that's why people get pissed about this, guys like me would give anything to have an Image comic. And here he is pissing all over the opportunity. And in that sense, he's pissing all over us, the readers, and pissing all over Image, the company. The only people who are happy about this are the editors at Marvel. That's the way you need, that's the way I look at things. That's the way I see things. I'm not going to say that's the way you need to do shit. For some people, maybe this is a perfect book. And you know what? You only got 4 or 5 issues. Why is that? It wasn't a perfect book for enough of you is why. And that's the part where to be a high-level comic is you get everyone in the audience laughing at your jokes. Not just 2 out of 10. Not 3 out of 10. That's why I did not rush into this. This is 10 out of 10. Like Harry Potter. This is Harry Potter level. There's no politics in this. This is just pure humanity. If you're a good person, this will resonate with you. If you're an evil person, it'll probably still resonate with you because it's sincere and honest. This is a lot of fun, but the last thing it is sincere. Or maybe it's sincere, it's just not. It's definitely competent, it's professional, it's fucking awesome. It's just not good. It's just not good. It's empty. It's a hollow shell. It is a painted shell. Like I said, sugar. This is all frosting, no cake. That's a terrible review for a comic. Here is some other guy. I guess he's a serious hero, but we only get a couple pages of exposition with him. He's supposedly in the next issue. Here we get a guy. Oh no! I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Trencher has gone to like a rehab unit, a futuristic place where, see here, he vanishes. He steps through a portal, right? You only see half of his body in this panel right here. He steps through a portal to evade Supreme and jumps out of Las Vegas into the future somewhere, some sort of idiocracy, cybernetic Terminator future, like Skynet, corporate Skynets. And here he's getting rehabbed. He's getting his, he's got his head between his feet. And another superhero comes in and tells him about how awesome he's doing, about how he's getting paid a ton, about how everything is going great, and he's really happy. And Trencher, of course, is miserable. Excuse me. And this guy's telling him about all the fights he's had, blah, blah, blah. It looks good. This is the part where it's Image superhero comics. Here we get some more Trencher, and he goes back to Vegas. Yeah, he goes back to Vegas, and nothing much happens. Supreme's gone. Or he's gone off somewhere else. And this is not really a cliffhanger. It's just supposed to be a lead-in for the next issue. And it didn't make any sense, so I don't remember what it says. There is some nice pinups back here. The Hurler from yesterday's issue. As well as a Trencher mini comic, which is just dialogue and exposition about working at Image. It's not really... This is a waste of 2 pages. This is utterly indulgent. This would have been better served doing as advertisements for other Image comics. Here, like this. Nothing. I love the Image ads. This is everything I wanted to see in the Conan the Barbarian. If Marvel had been doing ads like this, I would have enjoyed it more as a reader. Mile High Comics, nothing wrong with you, but, I don't really care. So, yeah. Culture war. You guys didn't know you were in it. You thought everything was fine. You thought it was just Jew money, Oh, well, let the gays in. And now look where we are. Our parents told us it was a slippery slope. And this guy, Keith Griffin, would have been a boomer. He's my parents' generation. He clearly was a pothead and not of the belief that this was a slippery slope. He would have been a degenerate, probably living out here in the West Coast. No, probably New York. But probably a degenerate. I saw a picture of him. It looked like he'd never been to the gym in his life. No, I have no respect for those guys. No, I have no respect for all you comic book artists and writers who are in real life bitches and faggots. If you're doing this for a living, you should be able to fight anyone. You should be the same level I'm at. Write what you know means you have to go fucking learn all this shit. You have to go learn all the martial arts. Go learn how to fucking be a man. Most of you are fucking not. Oh, today's conflicted card. Today's conflicted card is the 10 of spades, and this card is written in such a way as to give you an immediate emotional reaction. First, you're congratulated for doing everything right. You and 3 other families have co-opted and you've pooled all your resources. You have a year's worth of supplies at your bug out location, and everything falls apart. And you're able to get your family together, and you arrive at your bug out location to find that each of the 2 families have brought an additional family, reducing your yearly supply to 6 months? A little over 6 months, 7 months. How do you feel about that? Your initial reaction, the way this is written to make you angry, is written to make you pissed off. But the truth is, and I realized this doing the other ones last week, or the last few months. That's the best case scenario you could have asked for. You need people more than you need food. Everyone who is not on your team is an enemy, and everyone who's on your team is a comrade. You're literally at war, and you're at war with the entire world for your year's supply of food. And now you have a few more people to help you defend your 7-month supply of food. Plus, those other people are smart, creative, and they're going to help you solve problems. You're going to have to, inside of this year, you're going to have to find other ways to get food. And the last few months of that is going to be especially hard because that's going to be when you need it the most and you're going to have the least amount of energy. So now you start with the idea that we only have 7 months of food. We have to procure more resources immediately, and you have more people on hand to do that. You're in a better situation. See, this is written wrong. This is written incorrectly. This isn't that you have a year's supply of food. You don't have a year's supply of food. It's the end of the fucking world. You have to rebuild civilization on your own right now. You don't get to camp out for a year and watch everything else happen. No. It's not how that goes. Ashley Fox, Ninja Babysitter, Last Valkyrie, issue number 6 in a 6-issue limited series that was never done. 1 through 5 were never done. Ashley and Reverend Wolf rescue a bunch of kids from the synagogue of Satan. Let's just come right out and say it. From being child trafficked and satanically sacrificed. We know who the evil people of the world are, you guys. You just have to acknowledge it. You might not like me saying it, you might think it's this or that, but look around. There's one group of people responsible for all the world's problems right now. And the question is whether or not you're too much of a coward to acknowledge it, either to yourself or to others. See you tomorrow.